So like my experience is that when people live their design, like things just start to flow in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, it's mostly because they're just like in alignment with their gifts and doing what they're here to do.
Right.
But also that like it will keep changing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it will be amazing and then like you're going to be drawn to a different thing and then it will keep evolving. And so that's what I love about human design is that like it has led me in such an amazing direction. But I also know that like my life's going to keep changing and my design just like serves as an anchor to make sure I like keep moving in a way that feels really in alignment for me.
Welcome to Plenty. I have an amazing guest for you today. Her name is Erin Claire Jones, and I found her on the internet when she started tagging me in her posts. And I was like, who is this woman? What's happening? And she's an incredible human design expert. So if you have been feeling stuckness in your life, frustration, feeling like things are not in flow, today is your day. We're going to learn about human design, what this system is, and how it can unlock ease, flow, and abundance for you. Enjoy. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you.
Wait, is it Erin Claire or Erin?
Erin. Claire is my middle name.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just checking.
It's confusing for people.
It's so nice, though.
Yeah.
Erin Claire Jones. It's
Yeah.
like so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I fully support it. And I meant to ask you that before we started, but now
Here we
seems
are.
like a good time. Okay, for people who just like have no idea, what is human design?
Human design, great question.
Yeah.
Human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth that reveals your energetic blueprint and how you're uniquely wired to thrive, whether it's at work, in relationships, in life, in parenting. It basically gives us each our own kind of roadmap to finding flow in our lives. And it's so hyper-personalized.
I love that.
You know, it's just like there are hundreds of thousands and bajillions of configurations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like sort of, maybe not infinite, but
Not infinite, but
more than
many.
anyone could memorize.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's just not the kind of system where you look at two designs, you're like, oh my God, we're the same.
Yeah, it couldn't,
It's like,
impossible.
oh, we share this, but like then there's so many more nuances underneath it.
What's the difference between human design and astrology, and what are some similarities?
So they're both amazing systems to kind of understand yourself. Astrology plays a role in human design. So human design draws from astrology, quantum physics, Kabbalah, the chakra system, the I Ching, kind of all to give us this blueprint. So they're very interwoven in that way. You know, I think the simplest answer is it's actually a little bit hard. I think what drew me to human design is that it's incredibly practical. Like it doesn't just give us amazing information, but it tells us how to actually use it to transform our lives. And I imagine astrology does that too, but it totally depends on the practitioner and how they share it.
That's
very
true.
And also I think that human design, the focus is very much like this is your blueprint and this is how you operate. And you can use this throughout your life, whereas astrology is that plus, like also this is what's happening on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Which human design has some of, but not to the degree astrology does.
Right. There's
Yeah.
not like a progressed chart where I can read my human design for this year. Like my human
Well,
design
there
is what it is. Oh, there is. Okay.
But it's such a wild little world there that I think like the magic of human design is very much like what is your essential blueprint?
Okay.
Because like that's going to be the thing you use to navigate anything that comes up. And so when you look at kind of all these other pieces in human design, sometimes you can be like, oh, how can I try to become that thing? Versus just like staying really grounded in who you are. Does that make sense?
Really grounded in who you are. Yeah. Like using actually how you're meant to be to thrive as
Totally.
opposed to thriving through trying to be someone who you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So great. And so, okay, so it weaves in astrology, Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system.
Yeah.
Any other kind of like lineages that are in there that to shout out?
Those are the biggest ones. And if I'm forgetting, apologies, we'll include them somewhere.
Great.
But those are kind of the big pieces that really kind of shape the chart.
Where did it come from?
Do you know the origin story?
No.
Oh, it's crazy.
I don't actually know much about human design. I'm just going to ask you a bunch of basic questions.
Please do. So the origin story is wild. And I also just want to say if there are skeptics listening, which I really hope that there are, you know, what matters to me is not whether human design is true, it's whether it's useful. Yeah. And so if you're totally new, I would just listen through that lens of like, is this actually useful? Because the origin story is wild. So the founder is a man named Ra Uhuruhu. He's no longer alive, but basically in 1987, he had a really mystical experience where he was walking home one night and heard a voice. And the voice said, it's time to work. And for 8 days and 8 nights, he channeled the system, meaning he just received all this information. And then he spent the next 20 years building it out. And I think what's so fascinating is that Ra was like an advertising executive from Montreal. Like he was not, I think this was not the plan for him. And so he was in some ways a very unexpected recipient of the information. But it's been really wild to kind of watch it grow because when I first discovered human design almost 10 years ago, no one knew what it was. And it was so on the fringe. And I think I would say probably in the past 5 years, it's grown in popularity so much because there are just like new people talking about it in less dogmatic ways that I think are more accessible to a broader audience. So this story is wild.
That's amazing. And what year was that?
That was 1987. So it's pretty recent.
It's pretty recent. Yeah. So I heard about human design. I was in this sort of like spiritual mastermindy kind of thing around 2006.
Yeah.
And I heard about it through then, but I never, but I never like did anything about it. And then it really wasn't until like the age of Instagram that I, to be perfectly honest, I think I basically heard about it the second time because you started using my quotes in your post.
In my Sunday Words post. And you're like, what is she doing?
And so then I sort of like dug back in. So thank you for bringing me back. And also thank you for using, it's like such an honor to be able to, help someone somehow, some way.
Totally.
Okay. And so why did you 10 years ago, like A, did you start your business 10 years ago, or B, how did you find human design and why have you now devoted your career to this?
Yeah. Not the plan also.
Yeah.
So I did start my first business 10 years ago. It's not the business that I have now. And I'll share about that. But I discovered it in a very serendipitous way. I was living in New York City and I went to a friend's gathering in the Lower East Side and met a stranger who asked to read my human design chart. And I think I was just like, tell me everything. Like, I want to learn about myself. And he gave me this mini reading that was so insightful and accurate and also like really called me out. I felt like nobody had put words to me so clearly, but also he called me out and that I was not living any of it. I was like, what? Is there actually like another way to do things? Because so much of my design is about not being a doer and not chasing and not forcing.
Are you a projector?
I'm a projector. And I was like in the entrepreneurial scene in New York and I was chasing and hustling and just like going so fast. So anyways, that conversation ended with him saying, Erin, I think you're meant to do this. And I think we're meant to do it together. Like, would you study with me and build a business with me? So, and my design's all about being invited in. So it was not an immediate thing. I wasn't like on a Saturday night, like, yes, I'm in, I'll drop everything. But he started to really show me kind of the potential of the system. And I was just so blown away. Like I had never seen anything like it. And I had come from a startup background. So I started to see immediately like this would be so useful in teams. Like if people just understood how they could work together. And so eventually I did say yes. And we built a business together for 2 years that was focused just on human design for business.
Oh, okay.
And it was a little bit early for that. But that was how it all started.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the business you started before that?
So that was the first one. So we
that
started.
Was the first
that
one.
was the first one, and it was wonderful, and it was also hard because we just like couldn't find a way to make it work because nobody knew what human design was, and so
it's a little rough to be ahead of the curve.
It was so rough, and it was, and especially when we're like, let's be ahead of the curve and also focus just on corporate. It's just like it wasn't like a winning combination.
Like, on the other side,
I hadn't totally realized that yet.
Yeah.
And so another job offer came up while I was building this, and I was like, I have to take it. Like, I have to support myself. And so I walked away, and it was really hard because it felt like I was like walking away from my dream. And then like 3 months later, my husband was like, you have to like just try again. So I was still at this company. I helped open this beautiful space in New York City. But I started building my own human design business on the side at the end of 2017. And my boss at the time was like the biggest fan of human design. So it was such a perfect,
cool.
It was amazing. And I think what was amazing, just for those who are listening who are entrepreneurs, I feel like there's so much pressure out there to just like go off and do your thing full time immediately. And for me, it was so stressful to do that because like we weren't making it work. And so like I was kind of running on fumes those 2 years, but to actually like have a job and start to build a business, like I felt like my nervous system was like so much more available for it, and it started working.
That's great.
And it just grew. And like I left my job when I was making more from human design than the job, and I was like, now's the time.
Yes.
So it was really amazing, but also I think a big difference was that I wasn't focused on business exclusively anymore.
Yeah.
I was focused on just individuals. And the time was right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I thank you for highlighting that piece
Yeah.
around, people are like, burn all the boats, right? The whole like, there's no plan B. And I think that there are probably some designs
Totally.
that would be super supported by
Yeah.
that. I actually am someone who does great under that sort of level of pressure. I sort of thrive on it, which I'm working on rewiring in myself. But we're not all designed for that. So I'm really grateful that you said that, because there can be so much self-judgment around like, I'm wrong if I'm doing a job and growing my business at the same time. But it's so beautiful and much more relaxing. And like Elizabeth Gilbert is a beautiful example of, she kept her waitressing job until like,
I didn't know that.
I almost said Think and Grow Rich. Super, she did not write that book until
not quite.
Eat, Pray, Love, like, came out. I mean, like, I think she was a New York Times bestseller or something. I'm getting the details wrong. But she kept her job for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So things took off in a way that it felt great to then leave your full-time job, go full-time with your business. At what point did you and your husband become business partners?
So he was helping. Of
course, I don't even know that that's your setup. That was a full assumption.
Oh no, it is our setup.
Okay.
It's not how we lead. It's not like he's not in the front of the company. Right. I'm very much like the human design face of the company. Yes. My husband does so much of everything behind the scenes, and honestly is a brilliant entrepreneur and visionary, and thank God for him. We started early, so he was the one who built me my first website. He was like, "This is the time." I think when it was clear the business was really working, then he was like, "Let's just do this. Let's like build it." And so I think that was 2019 when probably we were like.
So like relatively recently.
All
things considered.
Totally.
So cool.
It was, it's been amazing and also hard and all the things. Oh, yeah. But as can be imagined when like you're just doing a lot of life together. Yeah. But I think knowing our human designs has actually been extraordinarily useful, because our designs are opposite of each other in every single way. And so that can be really hard if we try to be the same, and really amazing when we realize that we're really different.
Okay, so for those who've never read a human design chart, or maybe are like me and they know the general types, and I know I know the general types, and I know my like numbers with the line between them. What's that called?
That's the profile.
I know my profile. And that's it. That's what I got.
Those are really important pieces.
So can you say can you just like explain what the elements of the chart are, high level, to the point that would be useful for folks to get it?
Yeah. Can I use your chart as an example?
Yes, please do.
I'm just going to pull it up, because I feel like sometimes it can feel like this is a lot of weird language you're giving me. Okay. So in human design, there are 5 types. That's the highest level. Think of them like sun signs in astrology. So manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. And our type speaks to how we can use our energy most effectively, but also how to create aligned opportunities in our lives. So you're a manifesting generator. And basically what that means, high level, is that you are meant to be a multi-passionate doer. You are somebody that probably is not meant to stick in one lane for your life. And you need to keep things fresh and new and exciting. And you're also very fast. You can often find kind of the fastest way to make something happen, and not really here to handle all the steps along the way. And then another piece for you is that you're not really designed to chase after anything. The right things are meant to kind of show up in your world and light up your gut, and you're meant to kind of trust your gut to know where to go next. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of it's not waiting for an invitation like a projector, but it is a responding.
Correct.
As opposed to initiating.
Exactly. Like for me and my design as a projector, I'm waiting for somebody to be like, Erin, you would be amazing at this. Like, will you help me? Whereas you're just like waiting to be lit up by anything that shows up in your world, whether it's directed at you or not. Mm-hmm. So it could be like a podcast episode. It could be like a client you see on Instagram. It could be anything. But you're that. It could be so unexpected. But I think the key thing is that it's meant to be gut driven for you and not mind driven.
Yeah.
It's not like, what is the next offering I should create? It's like, oh my God, like this thing just came up and I must do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Then there's a piece called authority in human design, which is one of my favorite pieces because it speaks to how we best make decisions. And so your authority, for example, it's called sacral, also known as trust your gut. It means that you are somebody who's meant to make decisions in the moment based on your gut feeling.
And is that true for all manifesting generators?
No.
Oh.
So this is when it kind of starts to branch out.
Got it.
There are, for me, for projectors, there's 4 to 5. But for manifesting generators, there are just 2.
Okay.
So you could either trust your gut in the moment or trust your gut over time and need to sleep on things.
Okay.
Projectors
And mine
are 5.
is in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels accurate.
Projectors are 5, manifestors are 3, reflectors are just 1 possible 1, and then generators are 2 like you.
And it's, I know like generators and manifesting generators are more common.
Correct.
And then the other types are less common.
Exactly. So generators and manifesting generators make up 70% of the population collectively.
Yeah.
Projectors 20%, manifestors 9, and reflectors 3. Obviously approximate. I think
Right. Not because not every human has been typed.
no. But one thing I would say is that sometimes manifesting generators and generators can feel like when they hear that they're the majority, it's like, am I like not special? Am I not rare? And I think one thing to remember with both of these types is like these types, like they like bring like the life force and the vitality and like the doing energy that like makes life possible, And so like, of course we're going to need more of them. And again, things will just kind of keep branching out as we go down.
Okay, great. So we've got our type, then we've got our authority.
Correct.
Okay.
Then we've got our profile. So you're 3-5. There are
Yes.
12 possible profiles.
Okay.
Any type can have any profile.
Okay.
Our profile honestly speaks to so many parts of our lives, but let me just give you as an example, you're 3-5. So it basically means that you're somebody who's very naturally entrepreneurial. You're very much meant to learn in a very hands-on way by doing. You're meant to kind of fail, make mistakes, learn from them, keep growing. So for you, like the worst thing you could do is like, let me like try to get it all perfect and like not put it out there. Like you're here to be like, I'm going to put it out there, make all the mistakes, keep learning and just like keep making it better.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, so this is a perfect example of why human design is helpful because I have always been that way.
Yeah.
But because I was raised in our culture, which is fairly perfectionistic, and then hyper, because I was raised in New England in a highly academic family, there was like this real feeling of like, God, I'm so lazy.
Totally.
Like, what's wrong with me? I just like do shit and then figure it out afterwards. And I'm like, maybe I'm lazy. And then when I first read my profile description, basically my interpretation was you're meant to like fail in public and then teach the lesson. And I was like, oh my God, that's literally my career.
Totally.
So it was so helpful.
Yeah.
And then I could stop beating myself up.
Yeah.
And right now we're in the middle of a launch and we're doing some things differently.
Yeah.
It will absolutely go off beautifully.
Yeah.
And I know it won't be perfect, but I'm like not going to wait until a year from now when we do the next time to try a few new strategies. I'm just like, all right, let's give it a go.
Totally. And it's like the only way to learn, And I think what you shared was so key where it's not just about like experimenting in your own process, but like sharing that with other people.
Yeah.
It's like sharing the mistakes, the failures, the successes. Like these are the things that make these people so magnetic and so relatable. But it is really hard when they're trying to be perfect because it's the opposite of what they're meant to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So my husband and daughter both have this and it's just so useful to know.
Oh, they do? Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, my daughter's young, but I think with my husband, it's like he's been building things his whole life, and he's just like failure's like his friend. And I'm like, I get so nervous and he's just like, whatever, let's learn,
I love it.
But like everybody comes to him for wisdom because like he's just done it. He's tried it. He knows it. Like these people are so amazing to learn from because they've just tried it all themselves.
And what's your I'm just curious.
I'm a
what's
6'2". And so a couple pieces around that. One is that I can be very hermetic. Time and space alone to be in my own flow is so important for most of us, but especially for those with 2s. And it also is so much around leaning into the things that come very easily and naturally to me. I think when I think about all the jobs that I've been hired for, it's somebody that's just like, I want you to be part of this. And I'm like, but why? And they're like, I don't know. Like just there's something. And so I feel like so much of my career has kind of gone off that way where it's just like doing the things that just feel easy and realizing that like, that's often exactly what people want. And then the 6th part of my profile is the fact that I meant to live my life in 3 phases, where the first 30 years is meant to be like trial and error galore. And then 30 to 50 is kind of processing things and embodying things. And I'm actually meant to hit my prime when I turn 50, which is something to really look forward to.
That's amazing.
But it was interesting because I met my previous business partner when I was 25. And he was like, this is actually a really not a great time to partner with you because you're just like in the most experimental time. And it was true. But like it was, and he was 50. So he was like, I'm in my this is my moment. And so it was funny looking back because he was totally right, but it was hard for us to both admit that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And how relaxing to know that about yourself.
The most.
Right? Like we just spend, I mean, I know I'm making the same point twice, but we just spend so much time beating ourselves up for not being the way other people are or for some like ridiculous cultural standard. And I love that.
But that's also, I think, the magic of human design.
Right.
Is I think we just so often make ourselves wrong for either being who we are or like somebody else for not being like us.
Yeah.
And I think human design just reminds us that we're all so different.
Yeah.
We're all meant to build businesses differently and parent differently and partner differently. And I think the more I have understood the designs of my family and my colleagues and my friends, like the closer we feel. You know, it's like there's so much friction. We are trying to be a thing that we're not.
Yeah.
And so human design returns us to that. And also human design, in my experience, doesn't feel unfamiliar to people.
No, it's like coming home.
Totally. You hear it, you're like, obviously.
Right. But it was never articulated that way.
And there was never a language for it.
One of the things I did for when I ran a high level mastermind is I would run each one of the women's human design charts. And so for my coaching calls with them, it would help. I would just like review some of the highlights and help, especially around their, like, and we're going to get there in a minute, their sign of living off their design.
Not self and signature. Yeah.
What was it called?
Not self and signature.
Not self-signature. Yeah. So that I could remind them during the calls. And it was cool because the way I was doing it with one woman would have been totally different than another woman. And so often, especially as entrepreneurs or just in any coaching environment, we're taking the advice of the person who's giving the advice based on the way they did it, as opposed to based on the way our design works. So I'm so glad you're bringing this. Okay. So we did profile.
We did profile. So, and also the list is endless. So you're just going to tell me when to stop and move on to another thing.
Okay.
So,
So let's so I want to do these. I think these next few that you're going to do are critical.
Yes.
And then in terms of all those shapes.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We can do like, especially
Briefly.
I want to focus on the ones that are around like purpose, career, and money, even though literally everything can apply to that. I'm aware that there's not like a straight up answer.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so the one you just mentioned is not self and signature, which I love because it's super simple. So it comes from our type. And it basically means that we all have a signpost that reveals when we're on track and also a signpost that reveals when a course correct is needed. It's off track, but it also is like, that's inevitable. It happens to all of us. And so for you to be on track is to feel satisfied. You go to bed and you're like, I just feel like so fulfilled with how I expended my energy today. And like you drop in a bed just like delightfully spent. And to be off track is frustrated. And so frustration will show up inevitably in your life. But if it shows up consistently, it's really a moment to kind of just step back and ask yourself, can I show up to this thing differently? A kind of secondary one for you is peace if you are on track and anger if you're off track.
That feels accurate.
Yeah. For me to be on track is success. I feel like very appreciated and recognized in my work, my relationships, and to be off track is bitter. Yeah, which is like I have so much to share, yet nobody's inviting me and nobody's asking me. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any way for a projector, like if they're sitting around and waiting to be invited, is there anything they can do to like up the invites?
What a great question.
My sister's a projector, so I just like sometimes want to have her back.
Oh my God. I love that question because I think there are so many misunderstandings around human design in general. I think that I always remind people like this is really meant to be a very empowering system and not a disempowering one. So if you hear anything that feels like, ooh, like just let it go. And also maybe dig in if you're inspired because you might also just like be hearing from somebody who is not like the right resource for you.
Yes. Right. Just like anything. You're going to have people who teach the same thing, quote unquote, who teach it through their own filter that's going to resonate or not resonate.
Exactly. And so I will say that no type is meant to kind of engage with their strategy in human design passively, projectors included.
Okay.
And so projectors are here to be invited into things. It basically means that the right opportunities are the ones where somebody's like, you would be amazing at this. I see your gifts, like come and share them. And part of why that is that projectors are not natural doers. And so they need for somebody to see that like they carry all these amazing gifts beyond how much they can just like hustle and do. And that's why the invitation meditation is required. There's so much that we can do. I think that my business really started growing when I made it my job to make myself visible. So pitching people never really worked for me, but I just started sharing. I started sharing on podcasts and in newsletters and on Instagram. And I just like let the right people resonate.
Right.
And even now, like I'll reach out to people sometimes, but very much it's like, hey, I exist. You know, I'm like giving you a thing to respond to.
It's like being visible, being available.
Yes.
But not, you're not like doing like a big PR campaign.
Yeah. And also part of why that is that as projectors, like our energy can be a little bit intense. Our gift, and I don't know about your sister, but like we're really good at like seeing people very deeply and clearly. If people are not ready for that, it will feel like too much. Perfect. And so like I see the invitation more than anything else as a tool to protect my energy and just make sure I'm sharing it with the right people.
Yeah.
And honestly, so much in my life has transformed, like of course, business-wise, but like friendships and the way that I engage with my family. Because like, it's like, I don't need to like try to be seen here. Like it's going to happen or not. And like, I'm not going to force it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So great.
Okay. Should we talk about a few other pieces? Well, one piece that I feel like is particularly fun to talk about with you, because I forgot about this about you. There's a piece of our design called channels. And channels at the simplest level just reveal like our innate strengths. You don't have to do anything about them. They just emerge when you're living in alignment. So to me, 3 of your channels feel so relevant to the work that you do, which is just a signal that you're in alignment. It's not like go do it more. It's like you're doing it. You have the money channel, obviously.
Is that like a number?
It's called the 2145. I call it the management channel, but it's also called the money channel.
2145, money or management.
Money or management.
Got it.
It's not like, oh my God, you're here to make all the money. It's more around the fact that like you are somebody who thrives when you are autonomous and in control and your own boss and you're not designed to work for anyone else. And also like you have this very empowering energy where you can really like help others know what they're worth and ask for what they're worth and like help them believe in themselves, you know? So it's this very kind of like, you're like, I like know how to take care of myself, but I really know how to help others do the same for them.
Cool.
Makes
I love
sense?
that. Makes total sense.
And then another channel you have is the 2750, which is the channel of nurturing. And so you're kind of doing all this like intense empowerment while like having the most kind of like nurturing, caretaking energy where people can just like really trust you to hold them. But I think a big lesson for you is that because you're such a natural, you're so good at being responsible for things that you can do so to kind of your own detriment and in a way that sacrifices your own well-being. So it's how to just like take really good care of yourself and then of course care for others like from that excess and also not try to be responsible for things you cannot be responsible for.
Right. Yeah,
that
makes sense. Yep.
And then the last one is you have the channel 2551. I call it the channel of competitiveness, but it's also initiation. It basically means that you're like, have this kind of like shocking energy in some ways where you're here to kind of like shock people out of like an old way of doing things into like a much new and better way of doing things. So it's this very transformative, exciting energy, but people like projectors have to be really ready for it.
And that number is what?
2551.
2551. Okay. That's so interesting and feels true. I mean, I know that you just have it on your phone, but like, can you just point on the diagram to where that is?
Like what?
And knowing that people who are on audio won't know what's going on, it's just going to take a minute.
Okay, so this is your chart. What I'm looking at is the fully colored lines.
The fully colored lines. Okay, great.
So we didn't even go through all of them, but like those 3 that I mentioned are the ones that...
Those are ones that you have.
Yes.
A fully colored line you just always have. It's like locked and loaded. It's like your free space. You don't have to try. You don't have to try. And then are there parts of the chart that are opportunities for growth?
Absolutely. So
what would be a couple of those?
So those are areas called our open centers, which are the white shapes in your design.
White shapes.
And they're basically the areas where you are the most sensitive and receptive to other people's influence and can get the most taken off track.
Okay.
But have the biggest lessons to learn and honestly the most to teach.
Okay.
So do you want to hear one of yours?
I do.
You probably want to hear all, but we'll go through one.
Great. I can read
on
them
the episode.
Later. I can read them in my blueprint later.
So you have an undefined or an open emotional center, which means you're incredibly sensitive to other people's emotions. What a gift. Also, can be very
tricky.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Totally.
Because and when I say you're sensitive, you can take them on and they can become your own in some ways. And it can feel like you need to fix them or solve them or be responsible for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know your daughter's designs, but they could have a design where they're just pouring out their emotions onto you. And you're like, I feel it all, how to navigate it all. And so I think a big lesson for you is around emotional boundaries and knowing how to really be a mirror for people and offer them wisdom around what they're feeling because you have so much of it, but to not be responsible for it in a way that isn't healthy. And to give you an example of this, my partner has a design like yours. He's super sensitive to everyone's emotions. I, on the other hand, pour my emotions out into the world. And so when I'm feeling in a low or a high, he just feels it very deeply. And in an old version of our relationship, he would feel the need to be in it with me when all I needed to do was just feel the thing. I was going to move through it, and trying to explain it was not helpful. And so he's really learned to be I love you. Do your thing, be in your emotional low, and I will be awaiting you on the other side. Yeah. So it's been really helpful for us to both navigate that because my low doesn't have to be his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a gift to know
What
that.
a gift.
Yeah.
Totally.
We haven't had that particular dynamic, but I can really go on a roller coaster around wanting to transform some area of our life or perhaps an emotional one. And so even though this is possibly not my design. And I know that if you read me and Mike's charts, you'd have whole insight on this. But where it's he's needed to learn to just be the steady while I go on the emotional roller coaster. And that might be a masculine feminine dynamic.
Totally.
Sounds like that could also be happening there.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then what if Mike and I are both manifesting generators?
Cool.
Which I know there's 8 million different parts of the chart, but do you have just a tip for if two people are the same kind of type, especially because we parent together, we run our company together, and we're married?
So it's really wonderful to share type because it just creates a level of resonance where you can just really get each other and also hopefully encourage each other to really kind of do what's in alignment. I would say as two manifesting generators, you guys are both really here to be lit up by so many things, but they might be really different things. And so I would just really encourage you both to just make space to kind of do your individual things because the more individually lit up you are, the more enthusiasm and excitement you'll bring into your home and your daughters will feel it. Okay. I would also say, and I don't know what the dynamic is, but because you guys can both be quite fast according to your design and there can be some nuances, having people around you to just handle the details and steps so you guys can kind of move fast and be creative and speedy is probably ideal. Okay. I would also say because you guys both are so capable, I would just be really aware of where you are expecting others to move as fast or do as much as both of you because most people are not meant to.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yes. That is an ongoing frustration in my life.
It's a big one for manifesting generators in general. I would say particularly for you.
I'm 3 miles down the road and I'm hello? Well, is anyone coming with me?
Totally.
So what should I do about that?
Well, I mean, you've honestly got all the parts of your design that would point to that in multiple areas. One, as a manifesting generator, people cannot move as fast as you that aren't meant to. That speed is your gift. You also have something called a defined ego in human design. It means that you've got a tremendous will to do what you want. When your heart's in it, nobody can stop you and you will make it happen. 30% of people have that. Most people don't have that consistent, powerful sense of willpower. I find that these people are often disappointed in others' performance, mostly because they're just not doing it like you. And so I would say the dance for you is how can you hold really high standards for people, but also not be unrealistic in your expectations and just be generous of they might not do it just like me, but they might do it in a way that really works for them and ultimately gets the thing done. Yeah. And then also you have another part of your design with that money channel that it can be really hard to delegate because it can be I'm just going to do it better, so I'll just do it. But that obviously is not sustainable for you. So the answer is not a simple one because it's not that you're going to everyone will meet you at that level, but it's more taking the time to be what do they do differently and how can I create space for that?
Totally. Okay, so I want to ask you about, I know there's different schools of thought around in human design and the conversation around manifesting.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
Yeah. So, well, now I need to look at your design one moment. So my take on it is that Like I think the more I have studied and gone into human design, the less dogmatic I've become about it. I don't think it's really helpful to be like, this is the way. Basically what has happened is that there's this idea that some people are very specific manifestors, meaning they are meant to have like a very specific vision, very detailed vision around what they want to create. Whereas others like you and like me are meant to be non-specific. And the idea is that it's connecting to kind of the broader vision and feeling rather than the specifics. I think what's important to know is this concept did not come from the founder of human design. And while I think it's useful, it also is like one part of like a much bigger thing. So sometimes we kind of overlook a lot of the other parts of the chart when we talk about it. But my experience is that it's really useful for people.
Great.
I think for me, and I don't know about your experience, is that like I really am not good at like getting into the details of what I want. I know exactly how it will feel.
No, when people ask me what I want or what my vision is, I get really irritated.
Totally.
And
like,
I don't know why. I just really don't like that question.
I know. And like life is never like, I feel like I like have the big vision and like it just unfolds in way more magical ways than I could have imagined.
Every time. It's better than what I would have written down.
Totally. So I think it's really useful. And honestly, the part of the chart that it speaks to, and just for those that are listening, if you look at your chart, you'll see that there are 4 arrows above your chart. The bottom right arrow, what you want to look at, this one, is whether it's facing right or left. If it's facing right, you're non-specific.
Bottom right?
Bottom right arrow.
Okay.
Facing right, non-specific. Facing left, specific.
Okay.
And why that is that arrow speaks to kind of how we view the world, whereas the people that have it facing left, the more specific people, zoom into things in a much more natural way. They like love to look at all the details. Whereas when it's facing right, like for you and me, we zoom out and we just like see the big picture and we kind of see all the like subtle nuances. So that's where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I love that. So if someone is really wanting to lean into their design around resources,
Yes.
around money, around career, what are some of just like the few areas that they might double down and look at in their chart?
It's a great question. So I think what I would look at first is probably your type.
Yeah.
Because like how you use your energy on a daily basis is going to
Create opportunities. I mean, that's
Exactly.
the whole thing.
The
well,
whole
maybe not the
thing.
whole thing, but it's a real good start.
It's a real good start. Like say you're a generator and like as a generator, you're really here to be like lit up by what you're doing and prioritize your own joy, your own satisfaction. So if you're building a career where you're like so frustrated and so not lit up, like it's going to be so hard to magnetize any aligned opportunities your way. So maybe having a morning, a weekend, nights where you can kind of start to do a thing that brings you satisfaction can make a really big difference. So type makes a big difference. Strategy, which is part of type, which is how you create opportunities. So like, for you, it's like, okay, you're here to like let things come to you. So just being like, let me go out in the world and see what sparks me. Like, is there somebody? And like, let me just follow that spark when I feel it. Or you might be a manifestor and you're here to initiate and chase after things. So it's like, let me just see what arises and go do that. So I think those are 2 really, really important pieces. I would say another piece is around the profile. Because our profile speaks so much to our purpose. Like for you, again, you're here to like experiment and be entrepreneurial and like kind of learn in a more hands-on way. And also really here to impact like a really big audience and like share very practical, grounded solutions to problems. So I think when we look at our profile, we can actually get a little bit more clarity on where we want to go. Okay. Like if I was talking to you in a session and you had no idea where to go, with a 5 in your profile, I would say like, what is a problem that you want to solve? Like what is a thing that you have like a very innovative new solution for? Like where do you want to put your energy? If I was talking to me with a 2 in my profile, I would say, what do you do in your spare time? Like what comes so easily to you that like you don't even notice it? And if you don't know, like go talk to friends. Like what do they see in you? Yeah. So I think that can like help us connect to those kind of innate gifts. And there are so many pieces that can speak to it in our design, but I think like profile and type are so fundamental in that way because often we're just not living in alignment with those pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that when people are living in alignment with their design, it gets easier to have financial success?
I think so. I think absolutely. Like, I think that it's funny because in human design, there's so many like intricate levels where it's like, there are like money gates and areas that you're meant to profit. And like, I think those things are useful. And also like, if you're not living the basics of your design, it's like impossible to make anything happen. Right. So my experience is that when people are living in alignment, like creating opportunities in a way that feels really in flow for them, using their energy in a way that feels satisfying, like money starts to come, and it's not like, maybe it's not like the most money in the world because maybe that would have been unsustainable. And who knows, you know, but it's more like I think that things become really sustainable and things become very successful in people's lives, but they feel really good. And like, I can't tell, and I'm sure you've had this experience. I've had so many clients that have been very successful by so many conventional terms, but their experience of creating that success was miserable.
The worst.
And so I think human design helps us know, like, how do you actually create success in a way that actually just like feels so good?
For sure.
You
And
know?
there's so many times where choosing the feeling over just the number is
Yeah.
going to be for sure.
And I feel like you
the
just
better
shared about
choice.
this,
So,
right?
yeah.
Like, I feel like you said you made a big shift in your business.
I did. Yeah, we
Which-
did.
yeah.
It was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
we chose it not from a financial perspective. We said goodbye to 7 figures of revenue.
Yeah.
And we were just like, okay,
I know.
see what happens. And then, we had our biggest year ever. So,
Yeah.
but we didn't do it to have our biggest year ever because there was no plan for that.
You did it because it felt right.
We did it because it felt right. Yeah.
So like my experience is that when people live their design, like things just start to flow in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, it's mostly because they're just like in alignment with their gifts and doing what they're here to do.
Right.
But also that like it will keep changing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it will be amazing. And then like you're going to be drawn to a different thing and then it will keep evolving. And so that's what I love about human design is that like it has led me in such an amazing direction. But I also know that like my life's going to keep changing and my design just like serves as an anchor to make sure I like keep moving in a way that feels really in alignment for me.
Right. Because your design is like a way to operate regardless of the external circumstances. But of course, operating in that way shifts the external circumstances.
Exactly. It's like this is your operating system.
Right.
And like the more you flow with it, the better life will be. And the more you resist it, like things are just going to probably be harder. Doesn't mean you can't accomplish and do things. You can do whatever you want, but it just might be like a lot more pushing.
With as much detail as you care to share
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, like, what are the gates?
The gates, yes.
'Cause I just hear about them. I don't know what they are.
Totally.
Just curious.
So, okay. So when we talked about your channels, remember the strengths?
Yes.
Those are made up of 2 gates.
Oh,
so basically,
they have one on either end.
correct. So there are 64 gates in a human design chart. We all have 26 activated in our chart. Some of those make up channels. So some of those make up like consistent strengths that we carry in our lives, whereas others are just like kind of hanging there and they're a quality that we carry, but we're kind of looking for somebody else to kind of bring that other part.
Okay.
And so the way that I like to think of gates is like, it's a really beautiful place to look at when you look at a partnership, to look at like, what are you guys creating with each other? Like, what is the support you can find in other people? Do you want to hear about one of yours as an example? It's not consistent energy within people. So that's why I often think it's not always like the first
Number one
best
place
piece to
you
look
go.
at.
Yeah.
Like for example, one of your gates, I'll share about 2 of yours. One of your gates is gate 58, the gate of zest and vitality. It basically means like you've got such drive to just like improve things and like make things better and transform things, but you might not always know in the moment exactly where to put that energy. And sometimes being around the right people will just bring it out of you and you're like, oh, I know exactly where to put it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And then another gate that you have is like you have the gate of ideas. It basically means that you have way more ideas than you will ever know what to do with. And if you try to make them all happen, it's going to be hard. Idea machine, you know? And then like,
It's also going to be hard on my marriage.
correct. And so like when you're around the right people, my husband has this too. It's often like he has an idea. Everyone's like, you should build it. He's like, somebody totally can.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like,
they
'cause
should
we're not
100%
doing
build
that.
it. I cannot build them all, you know?
that's
So
really
it's just
funny.
good for you to know that like you have so many ideas and like they'll come out around the right people, but also you can't build them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Parenting. So I actually haven't really fully run my girls' charts.
Yeah.
Certainly not recently. I'm not sure I've done my second daughter's, but my first is a manifester. So
Wow.
yeah, and my
Cool.
mom's a manifester.
Mine too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So just any like tips for, I mean, I know you'd need to know like a lot more of
No,
her
it's
chart,
great
but
though,
like
yeah.
tips for supporting a manifester as her mother.
I love that. My mom is a manifestor, so is my sister. So I grew up in a family of 50% manifestors.
Our little one is a manifesting generator, but anyway,
Okay.
I'll go look.
Okay. So manifestors, and I know we haven't really talked about them much, they are very powerful, impactful, provocative forces. And even from a young age, they often want to kind of lead the charge.
Yes.
And do their own thing. And so obviously as a parent, there's going to be some boundaries there where you can't just like, go be free, do your thing. But I would say wherever you can give her freedom to kind of like set the terms, great. You know, it could be like, okay, we have one day where you call the shots. We'll do whatever you want to do. Like we are following your lead. So I think ways that you can kind of support that natural leadership from an early age. I think with manifestors, communication is so important. Often they just like want to go off and do their own thing and might not let anybody know, and it can feel hard. So any way to just like create a cycle where you're like, I'm going to keep you in the loop, you keep me in the loop, and we're just going to keep each other informed is really, really good. And also like manifestors, like you can't really tell them what to do, which of course you're going to have to some degree as a parent, but like, you know, if they're like, why can't I do this? Like, let them know why, explain to them, like just respect them in that way. Like, I think that like to just be like, no, you can't, because like, it's just not going to work for them. And honestly, probably not for most of us.
Well, it's interesting because when our older girl asks me those questions, which she pretty much always has when I've given a boundary, it's actually been great because sometimes I am aware that I don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
And so it's helped me deconstruct some internal programming.
Yeah.
And realize that actually the answer is yes. And I was just saying no because like that's what my parents said.
Totally.
And it's like, why?
Why?
And so she's been, you know, helping me too.
I love that. And like manifestors are very provocative. Like they're here to like provoke and change things and inspire like people to do things differently. So like that's such a great example. I think one other piece I would share is that you and Mike both have like all this powerful, creative, consistent energy. Manifestors' energy really ebbs and flows. They can have like weeks or days or hours where they're like on fire and so inspired. And then like weeks or days or hours where they're like, really want to be alone and just like away from other people's energy. So I would just also give her a lot of space to be alone and like whenever she needs it, you know, and not bust into her room without asking.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do you see those things in her?
I do. I totally do. Yeah. Now I'm excited to dive into both of their charts.
It's so fun.
What is like a favorite or maybe a few favorite stories from clients that you had where they came, I mean, you told your own story, which was really great, but where they came in, learned their design, made a shift and had like a beautiful transformation in an area of their life. Could have been their health, their marriage, parenting, career.
Totally. I think one that comes to mind is a client of mine from a few years ago. And I remember her coming to me. She was a manifesting generator like you. And she was like, Erin, like I have been like wanting this dream job for years. I've like been chasing after it with my whole heart. And like now that I'm here, I hate it. And it just became so clear in our conversation that like she had just like created the thing that she thought she should want, but it was not at all driven by her gut. And she was so lucky where she could quit the job. She literally quit, I think, the day after our session.
Amazing.
I mean, she was very much like, okay, let's try something new. And I was like, just like see what you respond to, see what sparks you, like don't force it. And a few weeks later, she met a friend and like he mentioned this role at a healthcare startup and like her whole body lit up and it was so not what she thought she wanted to do, but like it just felt like the right thing. And so it was so fun. I watched her go build an amazing team there, worked with that whole team. And then she became an executive coach. And so I think it was just so cool to watch her career unfold in a different way when she stopped forcing it. Yeah. I think that I have like so many countless stories of families and partners. I just can't even tell you that how often I'll sit down with romantic or business partners, where they're having so much friction, not because like anything's wrong, but just because they don't get each other. Yeah. Like I remember sitting down with two where one of them was meant to make decisions very fast in the moment, super spontaneous. The other one was meant to be very slow. And she was so frustrated with him. She was like, he's just so slow and like he changes his mind all the time. And I'm like, because he's not meant to be quick. And of course he's going to keep flip-flopping if like you're asking for an answer immediately. Yeah. You know, like if you just like give him space and time, like that's going to be the best thing for your collective decision. So I think like those moments have been so powerful because they just like the minute they understand each other, they just like have so much more compassion. Another one that comes, what?
Keep going. This is great.
I'm also writing my book right now. So I'm like, I've got so many stories.
Very alive.
Yeah. I think another one that comes to mind is I remember sitting with this generator client, and generators are very like masterful and committed and dedicated. And he was like, Erin, I'm like really frustrated with my daughter. Like she is playing lacrosse, softball, soccer, like literally all the sports. He's like, she is not choosing one. Like I chose one and I stuck with it my entire like high school career. And I was like, can I take a look at her chart? Yeah. She was obviously a manifesting generator. And I was like, she's doing it just right. You know, like you're getting so frustrated, not because she's doing anything wrong or because she's flaky, but like she's meant to try it all. And like your job is to just like support that, even though that's not the way that you operate. And so it's just like such a consistent theme in these sessions is just like people just are like, oh, like this is my way and this is their way. And like, it's okay that it's different.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just like the ultimate celebration of diversity.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
does make all of our relationships stronger.
Yes.
So, but it's like we always are going to see the world through the
Yeah.
lens of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that's such a limitation,
Yeah.
right? And so really
Yeah.
being able to have this practical tool. I mean, like tonight I'm going to go get Mike's
I know.
blueprint. Like I'm going to get the girls.
Yeah.
I'm so excited
Yeah.
to just be able to utilize that
Yeah.
more easily to,
So
it seems like
useful.
it's going to ease any, not any, but many
Many.
points of frustration and friction that aren't necessary.
Totally. And like, and I remember even looking at my family that I grew up with and just being like, oh, obviously this is why it was so hard,
Right.
And so like, it just brings so much understanding where it's like, now I like know how to support you because people just need really, really different things. And human design reminds us what those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So now that we really get how useful this could be, I'm sure folks are wondering, like, okay, how do I get my chart done? How do I learn about my thing? They've just heard you share about mine. I'm sure they want to know about theirs.
Yeah.
So I know that you have this incredible blueprint,
Yes.
and we've done a customized version for our people.
Yes.
So will you tell folks at first where they can run how they can run their chart?
Yeah.
And then like a little bit about what the blueprint is, and I'll tell them what I added in.
Of course. Okay. So you can run your chart at katenorthrup.com/HD.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I was like, did I
And
get
we'll
it
put
right?
it in. We'll put the link in the show notes. And if you're on Instagram, if you want to just DM me the word design,
Yeah.
we'll also get it hooked up there.
Perfect.
So DM me the word design, and you'll
So
get that too.
perfect. And you can look up your chart for free. You can download a free personalized summary on that site. If you're like, okay, I actually want to like learn all the things, tell me everything, whether it's for you or your kids or your partner or your colleagues. The blueprint is basically a 55 plus page hyper personalized guide all about your unique design. Just so you guys know how hyper personalized, there are hundreds of thousands of possible versions of the blueprint. And my favorite part about it, why we created it, is that it's this very, very like practical exploration of like how you're meant to operate in every area of your life. It goes through everything we talked about today, your channels, your centers, your like decision making, how you use your energy, and it talks about like what are suggestions that you can like actually use this in your life. What are ways that you can really reflect on it? So think of it as like your own operating manual to you. Often people will print them out and like print out their family's blueprints and put them on the bedside table.
I'm 100% doing that.
I
I'm
know.
going to get them bound and laminated.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's just like it's a book all about you. And I love having that.
Yeah.
And I think especially in those moments like you're saying of like resistance or challenge or things aren't flowing, to go back and be like, oh, of course it's not flowing because like I'm trying to be a thing that I'm not.
Yeah. Or I'm trying to get somebody else to be a thing that I am that they're not.
Which is so often the case.
Like with our children, with our spouses, with people
Exactly.
we work with our mother.
Totally.
Whatever it may be.
Totally.
Okay. And I just want to say with the blueprint, what I love about it is the sections are very user friendly. So sometimes people, I think, can shy away from systems because they're very technical.
Totally.
And the way you've done the blueprint is very personalized, but it's not like I have to know how to
No.
read a human design chart
At all.
in order to utilize my blueprint. And I think that's really important because even as somebody like
So true.
just with the analogy of astrology, I'm like, I actually know a lot about astrology and
Yeah.
I can read people's charts. But even when I'm reading stuff and people are jargony, I like leave my body and I can no longer follow along. And
Totally.
so I just want to make sure people know that
Yeah.
it's not that.
It's not like here to teach you all the intricacies of the chart. It's here to teach you how to like use your unique human design to live your best life in every area.
Exactly.
And so it's just like, again, people like use it for years.
Yes.
So, and we have a very special one that we've created together.
We do.
Yeah.
So this one is specifically, I put in some of those key pieces around how you can use your design for prosperity.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful intro letter and it's branded. It looks like our stuff and it's just really beautiful. So you can get that at katenorthrup.com/HD. You can just run your design for free, or you can go and actually get your blueprint, which is robust and beautiful. Thank you so
My
much for
pleasure.
being here. This has been really fun. I've learned a lot. I'm excited, obviously.
The manifesting dinner
I'm
at their
just
best.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I'm just like a little match ready to be Ready to be lit.
Yeah.
So where can people follow along and learn more about what you do?
So on Instagram, I'm at Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint. And you'll see when you go to that page also, you can, everything's there.
Great.
Yeah, the blueprint's the key piece.
Erin Claire Jones.
Yeah.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Perfect.
Thank you for being here. This was great.
Thank you for having me.
If you are a course creator or have a digital product of any kind, a membership, a program, a group coaching thing, anything, an ebook, like anything that you sell that is digital, you need to listen to this. My friend James Wedmore has also been a mentor and teacher of mine for 13 years, and I can credit so much of the success we've had in the digital online space as an educator with the training and teaching that I have learned from James. Last year, he took me aside and was like, hey, can I just be your launch coach for fun? And he helped us to dramatically increase our launch results by like 75%. He has a free training coming up called Rise of the Digital CEO. I will personally be there, and it is a powerful 3-day training to take you through exactly how to take off with your digital product business. He gets so specific, so practical, so strategic, really into how to actually do it. This is not theory. This is not blowing smoke up your skirt. Like, this is an actual step-by-step workshop completely for free. I have learned so much from James. And when people say like, how should I take my business online? How can I sell more of my thing? I'm like, you gotta go learn from James. This is the one time a year he's doing it. And you can sign up over at katenorthrup.com/rise. katenorthrup.com/rise. I'll see you there.